Hello and welcome to another episode of the AgNext Podcast, where we are always excited to tell you what's next from AgNext. Today we will be speaking with doctoral candidate Cesar Velasquez. Let's get into it. Cez, it's so nice to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Can you describe your journey?
Yes.
First, kind of who you are, where you come from, graduate school, etc.
Okay. So I'm not a native English speaker, so you can figure it out. So I'm from Honduras, that it's in Central America, in which I did a bachelor degree in agronomy. During that time, we had like a focus on learning by doing. So we got to class during the morning and work during the afternoon, or backwards, depending on what year you are. And also, it's really interesting that during like junior and senior year, my orientation focused more on the repro side of cattle, specifically on beef. But interestingly, my family don't do beef. We do like a double purpose breed. After that, I was like, well,
like milk and meat?
Milk and meat.
Okay.
Brown Swiss and Brahman, to be specific.
Oh, cool.
So they're, you can imagine, fluffy and early.
Yeah.
After that, I decided to do a master's degree in the dairy side of the industry. I went to Clemson, in which I focused more working on high lactating animals, working with trace minerals, specifically with copper and zinc.
Oh.
So after that, I was like, well, I need to know more about what's actually happening, but on the other side of the industry. At the time, I also tried to reach out to different people, and I think I made a good choice selecting here, because by the time I reached out to Dr. Carvalho, and he proposed me to have like a meeting, talk about beef on dairy calves. And I was like, well, I like calves. Who doesn't like calves? I didn't expect to be so in love with it at the time that now actually I want to keep working with calves. One important thing, I keep joking all over the place that Pedro needed somebody to actually speak Spanish. And that's why I actually got hired. And he's like, no, I hire you because you are the one person that I really want you to go to California and run this project. So yeah.
Awesome. Tell us about that project.
That project was fun. So the project was conducted back in I always call it beautiful Central Valley. That's my happy place. Whenever I was there, we find a calf raising facility in which we were receiving calves daily. Sometimes during, I want to say 2 weeks, it took us to receive 320 calves, in which every time they got there, we were collecting zero total protein. The idea with the zero total protein is that we were dividing them basically into one of the 4 categories that they are back on the literature, that Dr. Lombard actually helped with that. Once we split them, we were deciding if those calves were receiving extended colostrum for 14 days or they were just receiving a milk replacer like they will usually do. During that project, we were also focusing not only during the first 14 days of the calves, it was like a whole calf raising facility, or in simple words, it's 180 days. That's what Beef on Dairy is actually taking on the calf raising facility. And that's kind of my part of the project. But the whole project idea, it was like a whole system, since birth all the way to sending it to the packing plant.
So what did you find?
Some of the interesting things is that, for example, we're doing, like, dairies are actually improving the management of colostrum on calves. However, there are some particular days during the week that we are still not doing this correctly, if we want to focus mostly on the weekends. Why is this happening? We have some theories, but it's not something that it's actually correct. Some other things that we actually observed while we were there is those calves that arrive like with a good management back from the dairy, those calves are heavier once they arrive to the feedlot or once they sell them. Also, on the calf ranch, it's divided by, I want to call it 2 phases, if we want to see it like that. During the hatch phase, that it's going to be during the first 80 days of life of this calf. And then they're going to send them to a dry pen or a running pen for another 100 days, in which over there, what they're going to do is they're going to keep improving the diet. They're going to start giving more forage, more corn. So whenever they get to the feedlot, it's not like a shock, I want to say. Other interesting things that we kind of observed was, for example, an average daily gain. As well, those calves that receive a good management at the dairy are those calves that are gaining more daily. And whenever we go to dry matter, it goes kind of the same thing. So it's basically on the dairy, we're setting how this calf is going to go through the whole life, at least on the calf raising facility or the first 180 days. But the interesting thing all over talking growth performance is on the health side. So whenever we think about morbidity, that's one of the most crucial things that people still argues about how calf ranches manages calves, basically. In this particular study, we saw that feeding the extended colostrum and those extended colostrum that arrive with a good management back from the dairy, they were receiving less antibiotic shots. And if we go back to the literature, whenever we talk about diarrhea, that's another of the biggest diseases that actually affect calves. Those calves that arrive with a bad management since the beginning, those were the calves that were more susceptible to having diarrhea. And
despite the 14-day colostrum versus milk replacer?
Yes,
okay.
Specifically on the morbidity. However, if we go directly to the mortality, that's a whole different story. Those calves that arrive with a bad management from the dairy to the calf raising facility and only receive milk replacer were the calves that died during the first 14 days. Those that fail or receive bad management at the dairy,
and how are you defining bad management? That failure, describe to the listeners what that is.
Yes. So whenever I said like a bad management, it's basically not giving a good colostrum, a good quality colostrum or a...
And how do you know that those calves came without good colostrum from the dairy?
So the best way, let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So the colostrum, it's a calf is born with basically a naive immune system. Mm-hmm. So the calf is dependent on the immunoglobulin G that it's going to be found on the colostrum that the mother is going to transfer. Mm-hmm. So a way for you to actually identify if this calf receive a good quality colostrum, if it actually receive it on time, it's by collecting serototal protein, or basically just collecting blood from the calf, spin it, measuring with a refractometer, with a digital one. You can actually see in which category it's going to land. So at the beginning, I mentioned about Dr. Lombard actually categories. We're actually having 4 categories that it's going to be the poor, the fair, the good, and the excellent. Mm-hmm. What we try to always have in our production is 40% of our calves need to be at least on the excellent categories. Mm-hmm. If it's more, that's better. And we're trying to reach less than 10% on the poor category. If we want to see on numbers, whatever those calves that are actually less than 5.2 grams per deciliter of this protein on the refractometer are going to be considered poor or fail. And whatever it's also above 6.2 are those calves that actually receive a good management during the time.
So in your trial, you had them scored. You took blood, you spun it down, you assessed what category they were in. Mm-hmm. Poor, less fair, poor, fair, good, and excellent.
Yes.
Then you put them in 2 treatment groups.
Yes.
Okay. And one treatment group was 14 days of extended colostrum feeding at the calf ranch. The other was just milk replacer. Okay.
Yes.
And morbidity didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Mortality.
It matters.
It matters.
Yeah, those calves that receive the extended colostrum for those 14 days and also that were poor and fair together, those calves were the one that they didn't die for scours or diarrhea. However, those calves also end up dying later for BRD. So we are actually helping one of the two major diseases, but we're still not upsetting the second biggest disease.
You're still not overcoming the fact that they were poor.
Exactly.
Or fair. Okay. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So interesting findings. What do they mean?
That's a good question, Kim. I have received that question a couple of times already. And the best way that I know how to do or to answer it is if we already know what are the benefits of feeding extended colostrum for 14 days, that we're not going to lose any calves. Like in my trial, we lost 8 calves from 160 calves that we use just from diarrhea. And if we start making numbers nowadays with the prices of beef and dairy calves, that's a huge impact.
Sure is.
Now, if we decide to feed extended colostrum for 14 days, even though we make an extra investment to these calves, but at the end of the day, we are having a greater chance of this calf surviving from diarrhea, I'll probably tell everybody to do it. Even so that at the calf raising facility that this trial was done, the manager is now implementing giving different sources of colostrum to these calves so it can actually improve their mortality rate.
So that's interesting as an economist, right? So I'm always thinking about the value of those calves. But also, I wonder if you could maybe expand a little bit into the other pillars of sustainability as well. Like, are there environmental or social impacts maybe that we want to consider when we're considering colostrum?
Yes. So not only on colostrum, I will say.
Okay.
It's also focusing on the calf. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it has been always a concern, like socially speaking, about how we actually treat these calves during that time. So if we could potentially improve their health on these calves, that's actually improving on that pillar of sustainability. And whenever we start talking about environment, if we actually stop giving enough resources to those calves that we know that they're gonna, I want to say, die, if we actually improve that by feeding the colostrum, that means that our resources that we're putting from that beginning to those calves is actually gonna keep growing. So we're not gonna affect either like the environment section and the social section is gonna increase their improvement, it's gonna go up, and the economic value of those calves are gonna keep growing. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And did you say that they're also more efficient when they're in that feeding phase as well? So we're more efficiently using
Yes.
our food resources. Not that we're getting more animals to the end, but they're actually more efficient as they get there.
Yes.
Okay.
So it will depend mostly on what, I want to say, what management they receive at the dairy.
Okay.
So if they did a pretty good job there, like we're going to be seeing animals more efficient. Like, yes, they're going to eat more, they're going to gain more. But at the end of the day, that means that you can actually reduce those days on feed. So that is going to keep improving on the whole system.
So the dairy, though, right, when they're born, has the greatest of how they're managed on day one when they're born has the greatest effect
Yes.
across anything. In your research, how do we influence that?
That's an interesting thing. I want to say from last year, I had the experience of being in a room with dairy producers, beef producers, and at the same time faculty members. So that was quite fun to see. The beef producers usually blame the dairy producer.
Of course.
The dairy producer will blame the beef producer because they don't know. So it's the whole chain. So we need to see, that meeting was great, I want to say, because actually both industries, they were putting together and trying to identify what we need to do to improve these animals. I want to say beef and dairy actually is coming to kind of come and help that situation because in the past we only focus on the heifers.
Right.
So all the best colostrum that we have, it went directly to the heifers. Now with the prices and calf raising facilities pushing okay, you need to do a better job feeding colostrum to this calf. So they're actually giving some incentives. Like the calf racing that we did this project, they were giving like an extra incentive, economically incentive, just by, hey, feed good quality to this calf, because if not, we're gonna start reducing this discount to you. Like they discount that total price of the calf a little bit, and that was something I learned while I was there. Those calf racing facilities work by contract with these dairies, so they really don't mind. Like, okay, I have a bull that I want to sell you, I will not give my best colostrum to them. But now things are changing. I think this is actually helping now. The bulls are kind of receiving the good quality colostrum also because of that. And if we actually let more calf racing producers keep using this technique, I think we can actually reach having less than 10 or the 20% threshold of animals that are gonna be bad. They're gonna receive a bad management at the dairy.
So you're clearly passionate about calves.
Yeah.
And I'm close enough to you to know how much you love them. Are they in your forever future?
That's a good question. I wish. That's something that I think I have enjoyed working with, especially being like a creature that we have forgotten for so long. Now it's getting interested again because we're figuring out that the problem is actually not point B, the problem is point A. So whenever they're born, that's whenever we're having the problem. There are a couple, I think, researchers around the country that have figured out that, yeah, we need to focus on the early phase so we can actually help the late phase of it. But if I had the opportunity, either like on a faculty member position or deciding to go to industry, I'll probably see my future working with calves on the dairy side. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all about you, Cez. So we also want to know, and I'm particularly curious in your response because you are regarded as, I think you're everyone's favorite graduate student. Even amongst the graduate students, you're the favorite graduate student. So what would you tell an aspiring student, either an undergrad that's wanting to go to graduate school, a master's student that's considering a PhD? What advice would you give a student based on the experience you've had and who you are?
I would say first try to let's start kind of back. Like whenever I did my undergrad in Honduras, it's pretty common for you to do a thesis. So my mentor down there, he was like really comprehensive of everything. So I think that's the way that have formed me as a human being, I want to say. Whenever I did my master's, I also got really well along with my advisor. So I think the main point is find somebody that you're gonna be working really well with it. Because if you have a bad relation with your advisor, that's gonna be bad. The second thing I would say is me coming from an international aspect is always, my dad used to tell me, basically the skies are the limit. It will depend on how much you try. So if an undergrad wants to do a master's, I think that's the best way to go, especially right now. For a master's going to a PhD, sometimes I will say I regret not having that experience to going out to the world and seeing if I actually needed a PhD at the time. But I think if you go for a straight PhD, it's always great. As long as you have a group, like for example, us, that we have a group big enough with different opinions and everybody actually respects them, I think that's kind of the biggest thing. It's like find a lab that actually will make you feel like home. And I think that's what I have found here.
I'm going to cry. Hold on a minute. Says thank you for choosing us to be your home because we love you. Thank you for coming to our podcast. We're so excited that you were able to share all the learnings that you had from your project. Beef on dairy is it's the topic right now, and it's really inspiring that we have somebody with your charisma and passion and also smarts to be working on this. So thank you. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the AgNext podcast, where we are always excited to tell you what is next from AgNext. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and Instagram. For feedback or suggestions, please email us at agnext.colostate.edu.